The FBI is the most sophisticated law enforcement agency in the world, pursuing the most dangerous criminals. When a severed body turns up in bags across New York City,
there was no head, no hands, just some body parts.
Investigators hunt for a bloodthirsty killer and follow a trail of gruesome murders around the world. The Bureau mobilizes.
I've seen my share of dead bodies. It's very important to look at the victim because it helps you catch the killer.
We had every reason to believe that we were looking for an intercontinental serial killer.
FBI. Criminal Pursuit. September 15th, 1990. On a brisk fall morning, just across the bridge from Manhattan, a business owner pulls up to her office in Brooklyn Heights and spots a black garbage bag in her path. When she tries to move it, blood oozes out from within the bag. She immediately goes to call 911.
I was thinking it was a phony call. As I was pulling up, there was a uniform officer who looked into the bags and jumped about 10 feet backwards. I looked at my partner and I said, "We have body parts."
NYPD homicide detective Ken Whalen has seen his share of gruesome crime scenes before, but nothing like this.
I said, "Oh my God, I got a McGill around my hand." It was like the feet were cut off from the ankle, the calf was cut away from the thigh, you know, the breasts were cut off. They were in that bag. I knew we had a homicide on our hands, but that was it.
While crime scene techs scour the area for evidence, Whalen receives another call. A local resident has found another suspicious bag.
I have a couple of bags you can see right over there.
We got a report of the second location, same exact type of bag, and same thing, body parts.
Right there, man. Right there.
Inside this bag, 2 arms and a leg.
If we have a second bag, it's gonna be a big problem. We're gonna have to block off this whole area.
I was taken back by the way she was cut up, because you could see it was just very, very clean cuts. Really wasn't all that much blood.
For Whalen, the exacting precision of the dismemberment is a telling clue.
I had a sense that whoever the murderer was knew this woman and possibly had cared for her or had a relationship with her, because everything was nice and neat and they were laid in these bags and left for people to find.
Hours later, Detective Whalen gets a call from transit police. A third bag has been discovered only blocks from the first 2. Inside, he finds a torso.
At that point, then we called for a crime scene to come back to that location, and it was like the 3rd run on crime scene for the day. A situation like this, you know, where do you start? When I saw those body parts, I said, "Oh." And then when I didn't see a head or hands, I knew now I have a puzzle on my hands.
The medical examiner determines the body parts all belong to a woman who stood approximately 5'6" and weighed around 195 pounds. She had been dismembered, post-mortem, with a bandsaw, a hacksaw, and a carving knife. But without her teeth or fingerprints, Detective Whalen's attempts to identify the victim will prove difficult. Who could this woman be? And more importantly, who could have done this to her? And why? In a Bronx neighborhood, 61-year-old Mary Beal is out enjoying her daily ritual. Mary and her beloved dogs walk the streets of her neighborhood every morning. It's a routine Mary's kept for many years. A native from Yugoslavia, Mary and her family immigrated to New York in 1941.
She loved New York. She was head over heels in love with New York.
It was in her blood.
For 25 years, she was a fixture in her Bronx neighborhood. A widowed real estate broker, she spoke half a dozen languages fluently.
She was also an interpreter for the police and the courts. So when somebody would come in as an immigrant, she would help them establish themselves with jobs, housing, and whatever other incidentals that she could help them with.
Time for a treat. There you go, buddy. Whoa.
She also loved her dogs and was known to have as many as 8 at one time.
My aunt loved strays. She was, in a sense, a stray herself. Every single day, my aunt would walk the dogs, and she was affectionately known to some people as the dog lady.
Mary was such a fixture that people could set their watches by her.
She had told a neighbor, if you ever don't see me walking the dogs, come looking for me.
On September 12th, 1990, Mary has missed her morning dog walk for 2 straight days. Concerned,
Mary?
a neighbor goes to Mary's house to check on her.
Mary?
She's alarmed to find Mary's dogs in apparent distress.
Mary?
She reaches out to Mary's family in Illinois to see if she'd left town.
We knew her as a solid person, and she always pre-planned everything. We automatically knew something was wrong.
Mary's nephew, John Figueroa, is a deputy with the Chicago Cook County Sheriff's Office. When he gets word of his beloved aunt's disappearance, he flies to New York to investigate. He heads to her Bronx neighborhood and finds inside Mary's house 2 items she'd never leave behind: her heart medication and her eyeglasses. But strangely, her van is missing.
I started canvassing the area, talking to neighbors and businesses and anybody that might have had any information that could lead to trying to find Mary.
No, but excuse me, ma'am, have you seen this lady?
Reality started kind of setting in where I was figuring that the likelihood of her coming back alive was less and less of a chance of it happening.
Back at the 8-4 precinct in Brooklyn, Detective Whalen is having little luck piecing together the identity of his murder victim without teeth or fingerprints.
She didn't have any tattoos, any birthmarks or anything. You know, somebody could have said, oh, she had a big mole on it, you know, on her left arm or something. It was nothing. It was tough.
But then Whalen sees a missing persons flyer for Mary Beal. She fits the general description of his murder victim. The timeline of Mary's disappearance coincides with his victim's estimated time of death. Detective Whalen phones Mary Beal's nephew with his suspicions. Even though John is a cop, it's hard to take this kind of news.
I was just a fresh officer, so I didn't have a lot of experience under my belt. This was my blood, my aunt. It was very difficult.
John's mother flies to New York the following day to identify the remains of her only sister.
I could see my mom's face, and she just was pale white. She started crying and sobbing. They wanted us to go to the medical examiner's office to identify the body parts. Every time we would drive, my mom would point out garbage bags or trash. I mean, every 30 feet, she would be pointing at it. Is that Mary? Is that Mary? Is that Mary?
To help identify the dismembered body parts, her family provides police with x-rays of a broken ankle Mary suffered a year earlier.
You can see the same thing right here.
Right in here, it matches right here from the other one.
They still had the ankles in their freezer there, so they took it and re-x-rayed it and put them side by side, and it was an identical match.
It's got to be her. Same belt. She's got to be the one. It has to be her.
Detective Whalen's victim now has a name and it breathes new life into his investigation.
We couldn't figure out what she could have done to bring this type of anger upon her. I can't imagine somebody taking a person and literally cutting him in pieces. I couldn't fathom, I couldn't wrap my mind around the idea that somebody could do that.
Why would someone kill nice Mary Beal? And what kind of butcher could commit this heinous crime? Investigators will learn the answer is more terrifying than they can ever imagine. In September 1990, New York City detectives feverishly try to identify the sadistic killer who dismembered Mary Beal and disposed of her remains like trash on the streets of Brooklyn. Detectives get their first break when they search Mary's home. They find solid evidence that's recorded on her voicemail.
There was the old cassette answering machines, and I was listening to it, and it was a gentleman. He must have called her about 5 times.
You need to call me back, okay? Call me back today.
He kept telling Mary, Mary, what's the matter? It's me, Smayo, give me a call back. And each time he called, it sounded like he was more intoxicated than the time before.
Do you know who you're playing with? Do you know who I am?
Through phone records, Detective Whalen learns the man on the machine is a Yugoslavian immigrant named Smayo Dzurlik.
He had moved to the United States in the early 70s. It was the best day of his life, he later said.
Early on, he worked day and night as a taxi driver. But recently, he had taken out a loan to purchase his own pair of taxis.
He was living an American dream in some ways.
Further digging into Dzurlik's past reveals he's a serial cheater, a married man with a string of ex-wives and girlfriends. And detectives learn from neighbors that Mary Beal was having a turbulent love affair with Dzurlik, a man used to getting his way, and who sounded dangerous when he didn't.
You need to call me back, okay? Call me back today.
It sounded troubled, it sounded passionate, it sounded borderline violent.
But was Dzurlik violent enough to commit murder and chop a body into pieces? Lead investigator Ken Whalen runs a criminal history and learns Smayo Dzurlik has several prior arrests for attempted murder and aggravated assault.
There was an episode in which he was driving his taxi near Central Park and a pedestrian had hit the top of the car, banged on the top of the car, and Smayo proceeded to get out and take a nightstick out of the back seat and beat this pedestrian in the middle of traffic in the middle of the day.
Years later, Dzurlik's temper spiraled out of control, and his second wife accused him of throwing her out a 5-story window. She survived, but the marriage did not. Mary Beal served as translator during the legal proceedings. Despite his violent reputation, the kind-hearted translator fell under Dzurlik's spell. Mary became his lover, even helping him purchase a home. And she did more than just broker the deal.
I found out that Mary lent him $10,000 towards the purchase of that house.
The same house police obtained a warrant to search 4 months after Mary's death. When they arrive, they notice a pile of mail on the porch, a sign Dzurlik is probably long gone. As Detective Whalen walks into Dzurlik's home, he feels he has found his crime scene.
I just got this sense that this is it. This is the place, you know?
Whalen's gut tells him this is where Mary was killed and dismembered. But at first glance, the house appears to be spotless. Even the floors have been recently refinished. For a neat freak like Dzurlik, it seems like overkill.
The house was actually cleaned immaculately. The floors were sanded, including the stairs and the banisters and the railings.
It's a fantastic and seemingly telling detail. It suggests cover-up.
In the kitchen sink, detectives find 3 sets of dishes, a sign that Dzurlik may have been entertaining company shortly before leaving. Under the kitchen sink, crime techs discovered trash bags.
There was the same type industrial strength garbage bags in the kitchen and what appeared to be blood on them.
There was also blood near the sink. In the bathroom, a puzzling find.
There was a bathtub that was filled to the top with a dripping faucet. He might have dumped her in the bathtub, figuring, now what do I do? How do I get her out of here? So whether he tried to dismember in there.
And perhaps the most telling clue is Dzurlik's absence. Neighbors report that he and his new wife left the same morning Mary's remains were found and never returned. It's a strong circumstantial case, but has Detective Whalen collected enough evidence to prove that Dzurlik is his killer? The FBI examines the blood recovered from Dzurlik's home.
Through DNA later on, we did find out that it was what they termed consistent with Mary Beal.
A preliminary blood type yields inconclusive results. Without any physical evidence linking Dzurlik to the crime, the DA decides not to pursue charges.
It was very, very frustrating. All the evidence pointed towards him because he was the most likely suspect.
Determined to unravel the mystery, Detective Whalen seeks out a most unlikely source. A friend of Mary's suggests a local psychic may have the answers he's looking for.
It was a strange night. It was a stormy night. When we got to her house, she brought us into her parlor with candles going, and she started reading cards.
Her body will be found near horses and water.
I did find the body parts. The first location was Bridge and Water Street, and the second location happened to have been an old carriage house. So there were horses in that place at one point. She mentioned that Mary's van would be found by a church, and we did locate the van. It was on Father Capitano Boulevard up in the Bronx, right down the block from the church.
3 people are responsible for her death.
Whalen remembers the dishes in the kitchen sink at Dzurlik's home.
And there were 3 cups, 3 saucers, 3 spoons, coffee spoons. So it only indicated that there were 3 people at one point in that house. She told us after the murder was committed, they all fled overseas, but they'll be back to complete some business deals. I'm not one so much into psychics or whatever. I thought it was really weird, but she was right on the money.
It's an eerie coincidence, as New York investigators believe Dzurlik may have slipped out of the country.
I have no idea where he is. There's no sign of his departure. There's no sign in the immigration records that he's actually left. He's just not there anymore.
Their best guess is Dzurlik fled to his native homeland in Yugoslavia. But as far as they know, he could be anywhere in the world. And detectives fear, if left unchecked, Dzurlik may kill again. It's been 4 months since the brutal dismemberment murder of Mary Beal, and her suspected killer, Smiljo Dzurlik, continues to elude New York detectives. It's as though Dzurlik vanished off the face of the earth. Then, in 1994, 4 years later, New York detectives get a big break when they locate Dzurlik's 3rd ex-wife.
They found out the woman that was living with him at the time of the murder, she was over in Belgium.
She's now divorced from Dzurlik and has plenty to tell New York detectives.
They learned that Dzurlik was in Belgium and was wearing women's clothes, and he believed that that was an attempt to elude the police. And she was also afraid of him. She was having problems with him, and he had threatened her over there.
Detectives take note of Dzurlik's bizarre behavior and are not surprised to hear he's still violent. Then, she tells New York detectives if they can find Dzurlik's sister, she knows who killed Mary Beal. Investigators luck out and quickly locate Dzurlik's sister in the Bronx. They press her for answers. She's evasive and uncooperative.
At one point, he grabbed his handcuffs out from the back of his belt and said, "You're under arrest for the murder of Mary Beal."
I'm tired of these games.
At that point, she started blurting, "I didn't do it, I didn't do it." She said, "My brother killed her."
I didn't do it.
Who did?
My brother did it.
Dzurlik's sister says her brother came by the day before Mary's remains were found.
Have you seen Mary?
Nobody's seen Mary.
And he told her that Mary is no more. And she said, "What do you mean?" He says, "I killed her."
I killed her with a hammer.
And he told her that he struck her in the head and killed her with a hammer.
Dzurlik's sister agrees to testify in court against her brother. In 1995, 5 years after Mary's death, the Kings County District Attorney finally has enough to charge Zmajo Dzurlik with murder. But justice seems out of reach. Dzurlik was last seen in Belgium, but authorities have been unable to locate him. They believe he's still in the country, but they just don't know where. Then, 6 months later, a startling discovery in the small Belgian town of Mons, just south of Brussels. Police follow up on reports of a gruesome discovery: the dismembered body of a woman. Like the severed remains of Mary Beal, her body parts are packed neatly in several black garbage bags, scattered across the city. Police identify the victim as a prostitute who frequented a rundown neighborhood near the railway station.
And that part of the city was kind of like another side of the tracks. The victims were, you know, it was like people that would be hanging out in bars and, you know, taking a cab home at night.
Belgian police investigate cabbies looking for their culprit. But a short time later, another black garbage bag is located. Inside are the remains of a second prostitute. 3 more victims followed. The killer taunted police by scattering body parts throughout the city and displaying a macabre sense of humor.
Body parts were placed along a river that was the River of Hate. Another location where remains were found were alongside a river of Fear. There was a head that was found on a street that was named Deposit Road.
Autopsies revealed all 5 Belgian prostitutes had been killed in the same manner, by blunt force trauma to the back of the head. To New York authorities, the Belgian murders are eerily similar to the murder of Mary Beal.
All of the victims had been dismembered. He was referred to as the Butcher of Mons because of the surgical precision, and the person that had done this, they believed, had a background in cutting.
Like a person with surgical knowledge, or a butcher.
We found out Zmajo Dzurlik happened to have been a butcher when he was in Europe before he came to America.
And that's not all.
At that time, Dzurlik was living in Belgium. He was driving a taxi cab, just like he did back in the Bronx.
Just like the Belgian serial killer. Is it all just bizarre coincidence? Or could Zmajo Dzurlik be the Butcher of Mons?
I think a lot of people don't kill just one time. If you killed someone and you got away with it, and if it was something that you enjoyed doing, there is the possibility that you could kill again.
But without Dzurlik in cuffs, they won't know for sure. Then, in 2004, NYPD cold case detective James Osorio reopens the Mary Beal case, determined to find justice for her family and put Dzurlik behind bars. But his fugitive has long fled Belgium, his last known location. Is there any hope of ever finding Dzurlik?
One thing about fugitives, and especially as time passes, I've found, is, everybody's the same. They want to go home. They want to go to where they know people, where they're familiar with.
Dzurlik is now 65 years old. His native Yugoslavia has just come out of a bloody civil war. Investigators wonder if an intercontinental serial killer has returned to his native hunting grounds. November 2006, Albania. Along the Mediterranean coast, the mutilated body parts of a young woman wash ashore. 2 weeks later, another victim surfaces. Like the first, she has been brutally dismembered. The Albanian authorities fear this may be the handiwork of a serial killer. They call on the FBI to help them in their investigation. Special Agent Michael Clark works in the Bureau's field office in Bulgaria and responds to the request.
The FBI is always interested in serial killers and profiling to enhance our capabilities to address those crimes.
Agent Clark arrives in the capital city of Tirana and begins by taking a look at the crime scene.
It was a mess. Albania is a very poor country, so the police don't have an evidence response team that can come. They don't even have a morgue that has refrigeration that can preserve the body.
The morgue proves to be another nightmare.
Rather than leaving the limbs as they were and sort of placing them on a gurney as they would have been, they actually stitched the body parts together, but they stitched the left leg onto the right hip and the right leg onto the left hip. It was a disastrous scene.
Hello, operator? Yeah, I need to be put through the FBI office in Washington.
Agent Clark knows they need to process the body properly in order to obtain any credible evidence.
Look, we've got a real problem here. We've got to get it back to the States ASAP, or we're going to lose all this evidence.
It's very important to know whether the dismemberment was part of a torture sequence or whether it was post-mortem for utility. So it's very important to understand who the victim was because it helps you catch the killer.
And they are running out of time.
They had, 2 days until this body was goo, and they had to figure something out very quickly.
Albanian Jane Doe is flown to the United States and brought to the FBI lab in Quantico, Virginia, where highly skilled technicians conduct an advanced analysis of the remains. They determine the cause of death is from a blow to the back of the head.
We're able to generate a picture of what the victim may have looked like. We took all of that information and we put it out to every FBI office regionally.
But the Bureau's attempt to identify the young woman stalls. Agents are not sure whether she's fallen victim to the human trafficking epidemic in Albania, or is there a serial killer on the loose in Eastern Europe? Then, 4 days later, a potential break in the case. NYPD detective James Osorio goes to the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit at Quantico for a meeting with profilers to get insight into a case he's working.
There came a time early in the morning where we broke for a small coffee break.
In the break room is Special Agent Craig Ackley, a profiler who has just returned from the trip to Albania.
I think it was women, and they were decomposing.
I did overhear Special Agent Ackley having a conversation with another agent.
I put him in a casket.
Telling him that he had just come back from Albania and was helping out with the local authorities on a homicide investigation over there. At that moment, my ears perked up, and I kind of saddled over a little bit more.
Detective Osorio stops Agent Ackley mid-sentence.
Osorio said, I wish that I would have known that because I have this fugitive that's over somewhere in that part of the world. And Craig Ackley said, well, what's your guy wanted for? And he said, murder. Well, what kind of murder?
And I told him the details of that investigation, and I told him about the victim, Mary Beal, and how she was dismembered, and that her body was disposed in garbage bags.
When Craig Ackley described the crime scene in Albania and the dismembered body part and the way that the body was cut, two of them looked at each other and had this Eureka moment that these crime scenes were incredibly, incredibly similar.
It's probably like hitting lotto, but it was meant to be. The stars were in alignment on that day. We were both in the same place at the same exact time. It was meant to happen.
They compare notes. The Albanian victims were dismembered in a similar manner and with a similar type tool as Mary Beal. And Dzurlik is believed to have been near Albania at the time of those murders.
And it turns out that Shmelo Dzurlik's hometown of Plav, Montenegro, is right on the Albanian border between Montenegro, old Yugoslavia, and what is now Albania. That seemed to be one heck of a coincidence to both of us.
With the similarities between this investigation, it suggested to me that it was possible that he was still alive and active.
Osorio also informs agents their mutilated victims resemble the unsolved slayings of the Butcher of Mons, who killed and dismembered at least 5 women during the time Dzurlik was living in Belgium.
There could be some consistency on the tools, on the sequencing of the wounds, or see similarities between the way the body was dismembered post-mortem in each event.
Authorities are stunned. Could Shmelo Dzurlik be a globe-trotting serial killer? Their first step is contact Belgium authorities to learn more about the Butcher of Mons.
And the FBI looked at the crime scene photos from Mons, and they looked at the crime scene photos from Albania in 2006, and they looked at the crime scene photos from the Mary Beal murder. These are very, very, very similar. Similar tools were used, similar cuts, places where the cuts were, nature of the cuts.
Belgian police, however, aren't convinced the former New York cabbie is their man.
They knew the Shmelo was in Belgium at the time of the murders, but that they could not put him in Mons, and that, therefore, they didn't think he was the guy.
However, they are able to offer the FBI a valuable lead.
The Belgian police told us that he left there, and it was their assessment that he went back to Montenegro.
The FBI mobilizes a massive global manhunt to track down this elusive killer before he kills again. Agents know finding a fugitive in a foreign land isn't an easy task. But Agent Clark has an even greater challenge: finding a man whose face law enforcement hasn't seen in nearly 2 decades.
I got everything I could possibly get on Shmelo Dzurlik. The only photo of the New York City suspect was a very dated immigration photo.
The photo had been taken in the 1980s. Dzurlik is now 20 years older.
I thought it was extremely unlikely that we would be able to put this case together.
But the Bureau is determined to stop Shmelo Dzurlik, a monster who mutilates his victims, and agents fear will kill again. So they try to enhance his photo. 20 years.
We sent that to the FBI laboratory. They took the photo of him 20 years ago and added 20 years to his life and gave us a picture of what they assessed he looked like at this time.
Next, Agent Clark must establish a law enforcement contact in Montenegro to assist the FBI's investigation. He quickly finds the police there are willing to help. Clark wastes no time and travels to Montenegro for a face-to-face meeting with his counterpart.
Here's what we think the guy looks like. It's a digitally enhanced image.
He hands off the age-enhanced photo of Dzurlik.
He tells me, he says, "Mike, if he's here and still alive, I will find him."
But Agent Clark is concerned. Every second that ticks by, another woman could die at the hands of this serial killer.
It's a very cold case, and it had been so long, but we had to keep moving forward and resolve it either one way or the other.
It's only days later when his Montenegrin contact calls with some shocking news. His surveillance team has spotted a man matching Dzurlik's description.
He said that the age was right, he had spent time in New York, and the family connections looked right.
But this man goes by a different name, Smalie Tulia.
There was no definitive proof. We needed something, fingerprints, DNA, that definitely would ensure that the person that was in Montenegro was, in fact, Smail Dzurlik and our fugitive from New York.
The FBI ramps up their investigation, and the Montenegrin police locate Tulia's prints.
So he apparently applied for a job in Montenegro, a government job, and he had to be fingerprinted.
The FBI compares those prints to the ones on file in New York from Dzurlik's previous arrests.
And when they ran his prints, they popped.
Nearly 20 years after the murder of Mary Beal, the FBI confirms Smail Dzurlik is living under an assumed name in Montenegro.
I think that he thought that there was no way that anyone was going to ever find him.
I think he had completely forgotten that he was wanted. I think he felt that he was safe.
But what appears to his neighbors as an unassuming grandpa is actually a monster with an appetite for murder.
This guy was vicious. He was just a nasty, nasty piece of work.
Agent Clark wastes no time in putting together a plan to take Dzurlik into custody.
So off to the races. The FBI opens a fugitive investigation. We go to Interpol, we get a red notice. Everything went into high gear.
The Bureau's manhunt for a prolific serial killer goes global, harnessing police from around the world. And they're all prepared to take him down any way they can. In 2007, the FBI triggers a global manhunt for a suspected serial killer, Smail Dzurlik. His trail has led agents from New York to Belgium to Albania. Now, the FBI is zeroing in on Dzurlik in his hometown in Montenegro, a country within the former Yugoslavia.
Became very excited that the noose was closing in on him. Now we were that much closer, we just needed to get handcuffs on him.
The FBI has no jurisdiction in the newly formed country, so Montenegrin authorities must take the lead. On February 12, 2007, Montenegrin police move in on this intercontinental monster. They know Dzurlik has a short fuse, and they brace themselves for a violent takedown.
You're under arrest for the murder of Mary Beal in the United States.
To their surprise, Dzurlik answers the door, and without a struggle, he is immediately taken into custody.
There's nothing better than being able to arrest a fugitive in a foreign country that's been a fugitive for so long.
I never thought they were going to catch him. I was elated, but it was still bittersweet. It was 20 years it took for it to happen.
A tight-lipped Dzurlik offers up little information to the FBI.
His demeanor was calm and hard and evasive.
A year later, the new country of Montenegro still does not have an extradition treaty with the U.S., and the FBI is not willing to let Dzurlik go free. So Dzurlik is tried in a Montenegro court via a transatlantic webcam hookup to New York. There, New York detectives share their theories on how Dzurlik killed his lover, Mary Beal, and why.
I think she was just a very lonely woman, and he strung her along. I guess, he gave her, praises and sweet talked her, and eventually got this relationship going.
Convincing Mary to loan him $10,000.
It's so good to see you.
But police believe when Mary discovered Dzurlik was living with another woman, she confronted him in front of his girlfriend.
Apparently he was drunk. They probably got into an argument. She probably started asking for the money.
Her $10,000 loan, Deserlik used as a down payment on his home. Police believe Deserlik lured Mary to his house later that night and killed her. Then cut her body into several pieces, severing her head and hands to complicate identification of the corpse. Then he littered her remains in trash bags throughout Brooklyn. Mary Beal's nephew was allowed to appeal to the court on his aunt's behalf.
I just asked them to do the best job that they could and to give Mary her final voice.
In July 2010, Deserlik was convicted of the 1990 murder of Mary Beal. He is sentenced to 12 years in prison. A year later, journalist Nicholas Schmidl obtained an interview with the suspected serial killer in his jail cell in Montenegro.
He did not strike me as a serial killer. But as the conversation went on, he was a twisted man. His temper was ready to flare at a moment's notice. It was a distressing 2 hours for sure.
Deserlik denied any involvement in Mary's murder and was vague about whether he'd even met her.
He was emotionless in many ways. He didn't seem like a man who was burdened with any guilt. And he said, FBI made me out to be some sort of devil. He said, do I look like Son of Sam to you?
He's a psychopath. I mean, definitely there's no other term to call him. I mean, the man was just a violent, vicious person.
The FBI has worked tirelessly to establish a stronger link between Smajo Deserlik and the murders in Mons, Belgium, but have been unable to do so. Agents haven't had any more success in identifying Albanian Jane Doe. There is suspicion the victim was Deserlik's fourth wife, who was Albanian and disappeared under unclear circumstances. The case remains open. But to investigators, the similarities are too great to ignore.
He's in New York in 1990, and you have a victim there. He's in Belgium in 1995, and there are 5 bodies there, 4 which are consistent. And then he's in Montenegro, very close to the Albanian border in 2006, and a body is found there. It's a coincidence that needs to be addressed aggressively and run out to its fullest extent.
I have no doubt. I mean, there could be many more murders he got away with. For all I know.
As for Mary Beal's family, they are left to wonder.
It's closure, but it's bittersweet closure. We still haven't found her head or hands, and that's the final part of it that we'll never actually get a close on. We'll never figure out where the rest of her body parts are. So she'll never really rest in peace.